particular, we're going to be talking fear in the Jedi, and it's kind of an interesting topic. We have Amadeus here, as always, as my co-host, the other man in
Guys.
charge. You were the one that brought up this topic. So, fear. What does it mean to you in the Star Wars universe?
Oh, fear, I would have to say it's one of the large emotions in the Star Wars universe, only because the Empire brought so much fear to many of the core worlds, because that's where it mostly started from. It was Palpatine who pretty much orchestrated everything, and before Palpatine was the Sith, pretty much. But when Emperor Palpatine or Sidious uh, created the Empire, it was always Iron Hand everywhere. And as fear corrupts everything, it was pretty much one of the strongest emotions. But it was a Sith who, ran anger and hate everywhere else. So I would think that fear leads to anger and then leads to hate, even though the Sith code and the Jedi code lead everywhere else. I think that's how fear is pretty much orchestrated, and that's how it's orchestrated in real life as well.
One of the funny things about the fear that the Empire used is it kind of took him down. I mean, Tarkin,
Hmm.
he used the Death Star to invoke fear in the rest of the galaxy. Like, blow up a planet. No other planets are going to go against us, right? Well, in reality,
Pretty
it
much.
kind of helped them, the rebellion, recruit. Like, there's a lot of worlds that I think were like, things aren't great here, but they could be worse. But some of those planets, those worlds, after Alderaan was destroyed, are probably like, this empire. They're not good people. Uh,
Exactly.
well, what about fear when it comes to specifically the Jedi?
Fear with a Jedi, I have to say, uh, the Jedi really, as I say, they feared it, nothing, but their main fear was fearing change. I
Okay.
believe they feared the most was that they feared the Sith thousands of years ago, but since there was no Sith for a long time, what they feared was change because they were always been peacekeepers. But when the Attack of the Clones or the clones came in, they feared, uh, well, before the clones, they heard the prophecy of the Chosen One. And with the Chosen One came war. They knew that if the war came, they would no longer be peacekeepers. They would be titled as warriors, and that's not what they wanted. They never wanted to change from peacekeepers to fighters, and that's where all change would come in.
That's I just thought of this right now. Is so one of the problems with Anakin was that he wanted control, and he
Hmm.
couldn't control everything. Well, the Jedi wanting to always be peacekeepers and never be in war means that they had this unrealistic desire for control, that the galaxy would stay in this equilibrium, that there wouldn't be a need for them to become warriors again, because they were warriors in the past. There was the Sith Jedi Wars, there was the Jedi Mandalorian Wars, all those things. They didn't want it to go that direction, but what they had to realize is that they don't have control over the whole galaxy. At some point, it was very likely that they were going to have to become warriors again.
What we start with Anakin is that Anakin, uh, he didn't always, like you said, he didn't have control. He had taken a wife. He had lied to the Jedi Council for years. He had slaughtered a village of Tusken Raiders. He resentfully he was resentful and insecure and full of pride. He killed Dooku for revenge and desire, and by the command of a Sith Lord, what he did not know at the time, and he was full of fear and potential of loss of his wife.
Yeah, I
And
mean, yeah,
she was already, and he and her were always turning to each other. So that all that went against the Jedi Code.
yeah,
But
yeah, he
as it
was
stated,
definitely not living to the Jedi Code at all.
yes, no, he wasn't. And throughout all that, that was not a characteristic of a good Jedi, let alone a Jedi Master. So with all that being done and all him doing all of that when he was time for him to sit on the council, they gave him the council, rank, but they did not rank him master. just like you said, he wanted control, and with that, they pushed him towards the dark side because, one, they didn't want him in the Jedi Academy. They didn't want to make him Jedi nor train him. He already knew that.
Yeah.
They pushed him away from um, the council by not making him master, even though they let him sit on the council. And then the third part was having him uh, spy on Palpatine, who was his mentor. And at that point, that pretty much broke him off from the Jedi Order, when they had him spy on a friend. And to him, that was pretty much over the top. And that's where it pretty much broke him off.
Do you think there's any chance that Mace did that on purpose, where he wanted to see what Anakin's reaction was going to be to making him a member of the council, but not making him a master? Do you think there's any chance that he wanted to see if Anakin acted in anger?
Yes. Yoda does have. I mean, you can think people would think that yes, Yoda would do some kind of scheme like that. Yes, but that's only because he's the Grandmaster. I don't think the Grandmaster as a Grandmaster, but I don't think Yoda would toy with people's feelings like that.
No.
Mace Windu, on the other hand, as he does tap into the dark side of the Force sometimes. I mean, that's in many of our eyes. Mace Windu, on the other hand, his personality and his characteristic, I do think that he would try to see what side Anakin was on and how he would be tested in any other way.
Well,
yes, I think we did that on purpose.
The only problem with that is that would he then have him spy on? Well, no, because they didn't know Palpatine was the Sith Lord, of course.
No.
So there's no reason at that point for him to not have Anakin spy on the Chancellor.
No, I think he had him spy on the Chancellor to see what information he can get back, and if he would have withhold information.
Yeah, but
remember, they knew that they were friends, and it's only because they didn't trust the Senate at the time. It wasn't because he thought Palpatine was the Sith Lord. It's that he wanted to get information from the Senate, and because it was from the Senate, and because they were close, he was close to Padme. He wanted to see what information he would give to the council, and what information he would withhold.
Yeah. It was an arrogant move on their part, because they had to know that Anakin was close to the Chancellor, that he held him in high regard. So asking him to spy on the Chancellor, I mean, I don't know how they in any way. Yeah, that was very ball. I don't know how they thought that was going to end well at all. Obviously, they didn't expect it to end the way that it did. And had Mace not been a dick to Ahsoka, he would have. They would have found out that about Anakin's or Maul's vision of him, and that might have changed the whole course of actions. But Mace, I've always thought this. Mace is the reason why the Emperor was able to take control of the Senate and create the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
It would be mostly Mace's, and another one would be. I mean, you would think, or maybe not put it towards him, but I would say it would be Mace's, and I would say. No, I'm not going to go there. No, because I'll get a lot of backlash now.
Were you gonna? I'll say it if you're not if you're thinking the same one as me. Due to negligence on his part, in some ways, Yoda. In my view, Yoda in some ways didn't take control of things. I mean, you could tell that he was deferring to Mace in a lot of situations, and had Yoda taken more control over what was going on, I think that he could have stopped some of the stuff from happening.
No, I was gonna say Obi-Wan's to a point, because Obi-Wan at many points had the chance to make Anakin, give Anakin a lot of advice, but there are many times he told Anakin that you are not doing this right. You're doing this wrong. He had many times to give Anakin a choice to go, push more to the light and go for, and he didn't, which Anakin moved more to the dark, and Obi-Wan had that chance. And if Obi-Wan, as a close friend, and as he saw him as a brother and everything, he could have told the council many times. Because if you saw in Rebels, we saw it many times that Anakin and Obi-Wan were always together. Obi-Wan knew. I mean, he could have known that Anakin was falling even before then. He could have sensed any type of dark side in Anakin Skywalker.
Well, he was
Uh,
in denial. I mean, just the fact that he never. I mean, he knew that the Anakin and Padme had feelings for
yes.
each other, but he was in denial in not dealing with that situation. So, he wasn't looking towards the negative when it came to
That
Anakin.
that is true. That is true. But the reason why I put a little bit of blame towards Obi-Wan was because even if he was in denial, it was still him as a master and being a master on the council. He still had a right to the council to inform the council of his knowings.
Yeah, what do you think would have happened if he would have ratted Anakin out? Like said,
that
"Hey,
that is one thing that I mean. What would have happened most likely they would have kicked Anakin out the council in the same way. Something would have probably end up happening is that he would have joined the dark side. But what would happen most likely, the Emperor would have had wouldn't be the Senate would still probably be there under the Republic rule. The Republic will still be where still be there before the Empire actually had time to strike. It was I mean the war would have probably been prolonged a little longer maybe because it would not Anakin Sidious would have had to think a little bit more and do a lot more in order for him
well,
to
it would have ruined his
straight.
plans. He would have had to rethink
Yeah.
it. I have a different, interesting take on it. I think if Anakin gets kicked out of the Jedi Order for breaking the rules and being married, I think that him and Padme go off to Naboo and have a happy life, and everything is just peachy because it forces his hand. I mean, sometimes in life, there's decisions we don't want to make, and we think we should be here or there, whatever it is in life, and the decision gets made for us, and we end up being like, oh my gosh, you know what? I was never going to make that right decision. It was forced on me,
No.
but now life is better because it was forced on me. I think, yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I could see that.
I would have loved, and if they make a movie, I mean, when the TV show comes out, I would love to see Kenobi and Satine just have like one kid. But still, if Kenobi, like Kenobi asked her, if like he told her, if you had said "I love you," if you had said those words, I would have left the Jedi Order. If Kenobi left the Jedi Order before Satine died, who would have trained Anakin and would have Anakin fell to the dark side faster?
Well, there's a good chance that Qui-Gon would have had a Padawan that was much newer and didn't have the same loyalty towards him. And there's a very good chance that that Padawan would not have trained Anakin. And if that Padawan didn't push to train Anakin, then Anakin never joins the Jedi Order. So, in some ways, that would have left Anakin open for Palpatine just to go get and just train as a
Ooh,
Sith.
I never said that Kenobi left the Jedi because Kenobi, I don't think would have. Did he meet Satine before Qui-Gon? Before he became Qui-Gon's
No,
Padawan?
no, it was Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan together that were in charge of protecting Satine.
Uh,
So I think Obi-Wan would have been one. It's one or the other. If he decided to be with Satine, he would quit the Jedi Order.
yeah.
I don't think he would have been comfortable with living that double life. I mean, look at how much it tore Anakin apart. He had to be basically two different versions of himself. He had to be the family man who, where in all honesty, he had less control, didn't feel as powerful, and then he had his Jedi life where he felt more powerful. And there were two different lives, and having that almost, that split in who he was, I think is another reason why he fell to the dark side.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I like that we got off topic, but we went off topic in the right directions there. Yeah, what do you? I mean, do you think that the Jedi? Luke said that the Jedi, one of their destinies is to confront their fear. Do you think that the Jedi really thought that way during the Republic?
So I really think they feel that way.
Or do you think that they just
I
tried to not acknowledge their fear and just try to ignore it?
I don't think they try to acknowledge the fear. I do. I think that they pretty much. I think certain masters fear certain things. That's a good way to explain it that way. But
Yeah, could this Asajj Ventress be in the Mandalorian? Somebody asked. Asajj Ventress is dead by the time of the Mandalorian. She she she's already died. I'm actually reading or listening to the Dark Disciple book, audiobook, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And I haven't gotten to the end, so maybe she doesn't die, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I've heard that she dies. Now, flashback would be cool to see Asajj Ventress, but I'm more worried about seeing her in a Battlefront game.
yeah.
What's
Well, they're supposed to be working on something now for Battlefront 2, but who knows? It could be Asajj and Yoda. No, I mean Asajj and Ahsoka.
that would be cool. You know what, both of those they could be similar in their abilities in the game because they'd be very athletic. They'd probably be the two fastest lightsaber characters in the game, I would guess.
Hmm.
And so I've always thought this would be a cool ability of Asajj Ventress is that one of the abilities is that she seduces the other team and they start attacking their allies.
That's a crazy one.
Uh,
So I was looking up on who like in the Jedi Council there were any fear, but I got something very interesting.
okay.
Ezra Bridger talked to Yoda in season 2 and the Temple of Lothal. Yoda told Ezra that um, there was thousands of Padawan and thousands of Jedi in during the war, and he tells Yoda Padawan this: Padawan, thousands of Jedi once there were. Then came war, and our arrogance joined the conflict swiftly we did. Fear, anger, hate, consumed by the dark side of the Jedi were. A long time fought I did, consumed by fear I was. Though see it, I did not. So it means that even Yoda, during the Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, before Revenge of the Sith, he feared the war.
Well, and his problem is that he didn't confront that fear because he didn't
Exactly.
acknowledge it as fear. He didn't recognize it as fear, and I think maybe in their desire to avoid fear as much as possible, they just didn't really start marking too many things that they were feeling off as fear. And if they didn't see it as fear, they're not going to confront it and they're not going to
So that's
overcome it.
I mean that's I think that's like we came up to back where we go back to the beginning of our conversation that the Jedi fear change. They don't like the change of the Force. They don't like the change. Well, the change of balance of the Force because to them the Force has already been balanced with Sith gone. But to know that there's a Sith Lord out there, changing everything, that's change already, and they don't want to acknowledge that. To acknowledge that is, right there, that's fear,
Hmm.
and that's one thing that they don't want to acknowledge. I mean, to acknowledge that as acknowledging something new, to acknowledge that there's somebody more powerful, such as Anakin, that's something new, that's change right there. To make him, part of the Jedi Academy, you know, or whatever you want to call, whether he's a master or just a knight, to give him a Padawan, and later on, if they both leave, what happens? What happens then? I mean, look what happens. What happened in Clone Wars? She did something to what they thought was good, and he thought it was all right, and he pledged for her, not to get kicked out, but she left anyway because on the council side, she did something wrong.
Yep, because
So
they couldn't. Man, they were fools.
yeah, and it's exactly what we lead back to. It's all fear. It's the fear of change.
No, I totally agree with that. Like they were it's like if we don't acknowledge that the Sith Lord is coming, maybe he'll just disappear. That's kind of
And that will
almost how
not
they.
happen.
Yeah,
And,
no,
and the thing is that he did it right under their noses, and they could not sense it. They
yeah,
only sensed it the moment
it was too
he
late.
executed orders to.
Yep, when it was too late. Eat My Bullets asks, in episode 6, how come Yoda told Luke he would be the last Jedi, even though in Legends and canon there were some Jedi that were alive during and after episode 6? So in real world, it's because, George Lucas hadn't created them yet. But in the Star Wars world, I don't think... I know Yoda knew that there were still some agents of the light out there, but as far as people that would follow the Jedi code, I don't think he really thought there was anybody out there proclaiming themselves as Jedi and actually following the code. That's part of his arrogance, kind of, is that to be Jedi means that they had to follow what Yoda considered to be Jedi. Even though...
we had to separate canon and legend. We had to separate those.
Yeah.
They're two separate timelines.
Oh.
One, legend is all what is not Disney, that Disney doesn't suggest that's one timeline. And then canon, as we all know that, where can I say that, is that Ahsoka, yes, I'm not sure she is in canon, but we all know that Leia, Han, and Luke are still alive in Legends, from where I'm at now, and that Luke has a child. I mean, he has 2, or 1, and then Leia has 3.
Yep.
2 of them, or one of them, becomes a Darth Lord.
Yep, Darth Caedus.
Never had that. Yeah, Darth Caedus, and 2 of them were twins. Now, in the canon, they do not have that. They have one child. One becomes a Dark Lord or a Sith, and the other, they don't have the other 2 were never born. So we also know that Luke has a child, a boy, and they name him Ben. He has a wife, Mara Jade, who used to be the Emperor's hand. Now, all that happens in Legends, they did not create that in the book. I mean, in the sequels. In the sequels, Anakin's pretty much dead for 10 years. I mean, Luke is dead for 10 years. Luke is dead for 10 years. So, Legends and canon, you have to separate both timelines.
Yeah, I mean, I think in both of them, though, Yoda, when he says that about Luke being the last Jedi, I think he's talking about the actual continuation of the Jedi Order from before. And I think that even then he kind of acknowledged that the Jedi would be different after that. That even if, Luke trained new Jedi or there are other Jedi out there, that they would still not be necessarily a continuation. Just like with the Rule of Two, once Palpatine is dead, then there isn't a continuation of the Sith. The Sith were particularly, specifically that lineage of Sith that from Darth Bane to Sidious and then Vader. And anything after that, Snoke wasn't a Sith. Kylo Ren wasn't a Sith. They were both dark side users of whatever kind of discipline that they were practicing the dark side under.
Yes. I said Sith, which is the incorrect title for them. You're correct. They were not Sith.
But at the same time, it's the easy. It's kind of like Kleenex for tissue paper, or for everybody calls it Kleenex, even if it's a different brand. Dark side are Sith, light side are Jedi, and I could see that even in universe, people would probably call them that. If they ran into a dark side user, they would call them a Sith. And if they ran into a light side user, they would call them a Jedi. And they might be incorrect, but it's close enough, I think. Let's see. Yeah, there were a lot of Jedi that were alive, even in Legends or even in canon. There were, but at the time of Episode 6 or in Return of the Jedi, I don't know how much. I mean, Yoda, I don't think was really searching through the Force to see who all was out there. He probably didn't know about Cal. He probably didn't know what was going on with Ahsoka, whether she was still alive at that moment.
He probably doesn't even know Kanan and Ezra. Well, he met Ezra, but I don't think he met Kanan.
Yeah, so he knew about Ezra, but once again, there's a lot when you're adding storytellers, which eventually we're going to do a show where we're talking about writing stories between the two of us. But there's a lot of when you're writing something and then you're going back in time a little bit, to fill in the gaps or whatever. There's going to be some inconsistencies there. It just is what it is, because you may have assumed that the story gets to where you're at in the future for a particular reason, but then you realize there's a better story to tell. And then it might cause some little bit of inconsistencies, and you just have to try to explain as much as possible. So I'm not sure exactly what the Yoda's reason for saying that Luke was would be the last Jedi. So fear in the Jedi. Is there anything really else to talk about with that? I think we covered it pretty well.
I think we covered it all.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was a good episode. Once again, we do have our. If you follow the link below, that cool samurai Maul figure right there, samurai zombie Maul. You can follow the link below and kind of check that out on Amazon.
There's actually one thing we can say.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think because Mace Windu actually feared something, if he did fear something, is that why he was so powerful?
Mace, did you say Mace?
Yeah, Windu.
Yeah.
What was it that he feared, or do we think what do you think he feared that made him powerful? But he did tap into the dark side.
I think he feared not being a badass mother,
Oh,
but
okay.
no. Man, I think he feared I think he was such a stickler for rules and tradition. I think he was afraid of the Jedi Order changing, like you said. The fear of change. I think that brings it right back around, and I think that was probably Mace Windu's biggest fear. Yoda couldn't use the Force to communicate with other Jedi because he would expose himself to the Sith and where he was. Yeah, I agree. He wasn't reaching out. He did reach out momentarily at least, but I think that was, if I remember, I'd have to watch that Rebels episode again, but Ezra, I think, was reaching out to him, and I think he accepted the call, basically. But I don't think he would have allowed himself to be, communicating through the Force very often.
So remember, of those of you who want to be Jedi, confronting fear is destiny of Jedi.
Yeah, if
for those of you who want to be Sith, fear is the way to the dark side.
Yes, I will confront my fear of needles. We'll do it.
Yeah, and I'll confront my fear of heights one day.
Nice. All right, I think that's all we got. I think a really good episode. Amadeus, that was awesome. We're going to hopefully have another host on with us next time we do this. Try to get our buddy from Canada involved in these conversations too. But otherwise, we will see